What's all the life for if it isn't to make us four happy and look out for one another? If you could only see what I have at the hospital. Families broken and hearts broken. You would think different, I guess. Life would seem different.
George Timothy Angell was born February 18, 1893, in Hardwick, Vermont, to parents Timothy and Rose Angell. When he was older, he attended Goddard Seminary in Bar, Vermont, and then later attended Dean Academy in Franklin, Massachusetts from 1912 to 1913. On September 3, 1918, when George was just 25 years old, he enlisted in the Army in Rutland, Vermont. He was then sent to Camp Devens in Ayer, Massachusetts on his one and only assignment. He received the title of corporal on Armistice Day in November, and then shortly after in December he was discharged. During his time in the Army, the influenza epidemic worsened in the United States. Camp Devens was greatly affected, and George spent many days in the hospital. During this time, he wrote numerous letters to his family, and they retell his experiences during this epidemic.
Dear Dad, after I got my notice you sent, I went to Rutland to find out what I could, and Dr. Hamilton gave me another examination and said that I wasn't fit for military service, but said they had orders not to throw anyone out for heart trouble, etc. I was recommended by the advisory board for limited service as a carpenter. My dear sister, the blanket came in handy. Some of the fellows envy me. There are cold nights, but I haven't been bothered much. It's real warm. There is no one that wants the war to stop more than the boys here. They're sick of it.
What was originally referred to as the Spanish flu, but is now known as the influenza epidemic, took the lives of millions globally from 1918 to 1919. People started showing symptoms in the beginning of 1918, but a concrete diagnosis was not made until September of that year. It was often mistaken as other diseases, making it incredibly hard to diagnose, but it spread rapidly and was extremely contagious. The influenza was often diagnosed with pneumonia, as it amplified the complications with said disease. There was no knowledge of a cure or how to stop it from spreading, thus infecting more and more.
Dear Mother, I was taken sick last Friday with this new sickness that's having a rage everywhere. There are 3,000 of the soldiers sick here. 12 have died. But I am over the fever and still have a little cold in my head and lungs. Cough quite a bit. Believe me, it's no joke to be sick in the Army. And if one is really sick, I don't see how they ever get well. I'm not sick enough to be sent to the base hospital. And they have only of the 36th Company, the temporary hospital, and those that have a temperature of 100 or more are sent to the base hospital. There are so many sick, and so little help. There are about 50 die here every day in the whole hospital. 109 died in Boston yesterday. But they claim the worst of the epidemic is over now.
A little more than 15,000, or a third of Camp Devens, were afflicted by the influenza. Of the 15,000, 800 of them died. In September of 1918, the first month of the pandemic in the camp, there were 8,622 admissions in the hospital, including George Angell.
Dear Father and Mother, now you folks be very careful not to go out much where there's company or a crowd, and take some physic, for I tell you that influenza is more contagious than smallpox. And it's a much more serious thing than most people think of. Be careful of any letters and bundles I'm sending home. Many have died from it. So be careful, for if you should be sick, guess I would go crazy.
The influenza pandemic took the lives of an estimated 50 million people worldwide. To put things into perspective, the First World War, which lasted between 1914 and 1918, killed an estimated 16 million people. In the United States, around 675,000 people died. The average life expectancy in the United States dropped by about 12 years during the pandemic. In the fall of 1918, 4,794 people in Boston alone lost their lives due to the influenza epidemic and pneumonia.
Dear Mother and Father, I hear today about 1,500 of the boys here died of influenza and pneumonia. It's the saying around here that the strong survive and the weak finish.
When it came to the numbers for those at Camp Devens, one doctor stationed at the camp, writing on the 29th of September, 1918, says that the men started out with the ordinary symptoms of an attack of the influenza, but rapidly they developed the most vicious type of pneumonia that has ever been seen. About 2 hours later, they develop brown spots on their cheekbones, and soon after, their entire face is blue. For the first few days of the epidemic, the bodies were piled into rows that beats any sight they have ever had in France after a battle.
Don't worry about me, for I shall take the best care of myself I can. And if God gives me strength, I shall come as good as I left, and I'm going to be the best boy I can. The boy you folks want me to be. And I know it will take every ounce of strength, for I'm not as good as I might be. I know you folks are waiting for me to come home again. And I shall do it for your folks' sake, if for nothing more.